Right, we're underway. We're underway. So, episode 15 of the pre-match mix. We're well underway with this. So, today on the show, we're joined by Lee Allinson. He's the current manager of Hemel Hempstead Town FC. That's a mouthful. He was appointed in December 2024, and Lee arrived with a strong non-league pedigree, having led Hendon for 5 seasons and previously managed the fantastically named Biggleswade Town. He's a UEFA qualified coach at roots and player development at Chelsea, and football runs in the family too. His father, Ian Allinson, the former Arsenal and Colchester midfielder in the 70s and 80s. And with Hemel pushing on in the National League South under his leadership, we're excited to dive into his journey, his philosophy, and the extracurricular aspects of a job that managers face at this level of the footballing pyramid. So, yeah, welcome, Lee. Welcome to the pre-match mix.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
No, we're glad to have you, mate, and thanks a lot for making the time for us. It's we're really grateful. So thanks very much. So as I mentioned before, Col does the interview questions. He's our Michael Parkinson. So I'll hand over to Col and get him to fire away.
I've been called worse than Michael Parkinson anyway. Oh no, Lee, honestly, buzzing to have you on. Delighted. So thank you very much. And we just jotted down a few questions. So I suppose first of all, Lee, what was your journey? How did you come into management?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably different to a lot of aspiring young footballers. I think I was an aspiring young manager. In terms of, I was very fortunate to watch my dad growing up as a manager. I was on contract at Watford for 6 years through my youth as a player. But if I look back now, I probably never really had that drive to really want to kick on. Like I've got a drive as a manager, which is a really strange feeling because technically, and I was a very good footballer. But I look back now and everything I'm demanding out of my players, I've done the complete opposite as a footballer. But I suppose that the thing I wanted to do was be a manager. So, I had a steady non-league career. I think I could have done a lot better than I did. I played for the likes of Boreham Wood, Biggleswade Town, Olsey Town, Enfield, and a few other non-league clubs. But the thing for me, I looked at when I was 31, I think I had a hip flexor problem, and the manager of Biggleswade Town asked me to go in and be his assistant manager, and I took it straight away. And then within 5 months, Dad had got the St Albans job, and he asked me to go in and be his number 2. I remember going to the first game at Bath and telling him and ringing him the next morning and said, I want to go back to Biggleswade. It's the worst team I've ever seen at step 2. But sort of the journey begun that way. And, not just my dad, but learning off people like Chris Nunn, Zima Abbey, Gary King, some good managers along the way as well. And that was the one thing I wanted to do was be a manager. It's real. I don't know why. It's making me go very grey very quickly. But for some reason, it's just the path I wanted to take. And I think that's obviously because Dad done it for so many years. I was in changing rooms from probably the age of 7, 8, 9, 10, watching team talks, watching how he done his work, watching his bollockings that he used to give, watching him throwing the tables, throwing the cups. The game's evolved a little bit now, but, it's just what I wanted to be.
I was going to say, have you had to adapt your style a little bit to how your dad done it? Obviously, you've taken a lot from your dad and the managers who you've played under. Have you looked back on some of them times and thought, I'm going to implement that what my dad done, or I'm going to change that?
Yeah, absolutely. I have to be kept like with Dad, obviously, because his playing career was so good, and he, we go back to it in the 80s when you play for Arsenal, when you're a 12-man squad back then. I mean, you must be some player. Because if he was in the 12-man squad now, I certainly wouldn't be doing football. I'd probably be driving him around and doing what we wanted because we'd have loads of money. So like the thing for me was we're very, very alike, but at the same time we're very different. I feel like his standards of driving is a little bit different to mine. I kind of accept that players do make mistakes, and I think he struggles with that side of it a little bit more than me. He's, we'll win 3-0 and I'll be, very happy with a 3-0, but he's looking at the poor parts of the performance, and I think sometimes you have to separate the two. I think players these days are very different to they were years ago. So we're very similar, but again, miles apart in certain aspects. Sometimes I'll have to give a bollocking, and I really will go for them. But other times it's very much, arm round the shoulder, telling them how great they are, even when sometimes it ain't. It's not true.
Yeah.
Because I think everything's built on confidence. I really believe in that, and I think if you've got a happy camp, a happy changing room, you'll have good performances. Um, you know, so yeah, so we're different. I take a lot of what I had with Chris Nunn. Chris Nunn was a very good manager for me because I wasn't. Funny enough, that was quite hard on me as a player. Chris was completely the opposite with me. I played my best stuff under him, and he just took the shackles off. So sometimes I take a lot of what he used to do as well with me, and I sort of mix the two together. And hopefully, I'm finding the right formula at the moment. Although Dad wants me to get into him a little bit more sometimes. I think sometimes it's just you know put it away and crack on.
Yeah, love all that. Brilliant, that, Liam. Focusing on the positives as well. Brilliant. I suppose the next question would be is again, probably quite naive to some of the lower league stuff ourselves in the pod. So, what else do you have in terms of assistant managers, physios, sports science nowadays? What support do you have around you at the club, Lee?
Yeah, very fortunate. Obviously, when Dad lost his job at St Albans, the one thing we did together at St Albans, we worked very, very well. And then obviously I went on my managing journey, so I always wanted to get him back with me. So he come to Hendon. Then obviously when the Hemel opportunity come up, and I like to surround myself with good people rather than real good knowledge. I think it's I work extremely hard as a manager, and my knowledge of non-league is very, very good. And I like to have people around me that one will question me, but do it with the best interests. I think you've got to be so careful with your management team because if you get one person pulling in the wrong direction, you have a problem. And if you have a problem in your management team, that seeps down to the first team. So I've got myself, a lad called Ryan Frater, who I used to play with for years. He was a very good player himself. I've got a fitness coach who, believe it or not, he would probably be my best defender at Hemel, but he retired at 25. He's only 29 now. Fantastic player. But again, he's been with me for 7, 8 years. I can trust him. Um, Gary King, who was my manager at Olsey Town, who was working with Dean Brennan at Barnet. Again, we've always kept in touch. A good person who it's not in his best interest to see me fail.
Yeah,
He's my director of football. And then a lad called Keelan South, who's been with me since he was 16 as a coach and learning from me, and he's 27 now. And obviously my dad, and I think that managing structure of we all respect each other. I value everyone's opinion. I think that's really important that you value their opinion, but they're
yeah,
not out to do you wrong as well. And I think that's really important. And they're all at a good age, other than my dad and Gary. They're slightly, they are more that if I need something dealing with, they'll go and deal with it for me. Whereas the other three guys, the other three coaches are fantastic around the players. They're all of an age where the players understand them as well, and they've got that player relationship, but also at the same time they can step away and put on a good coaching session. I think that's important.
yeah. It sounds like you've got a real support network there, Lee, and not people that have just been put upon you. People that you've worked with for many, many years, and so you get to know them, don't you? Get to know
Yeah,
the
and
craft
we got a
well.
great goalkeeper coach as well. He was at the club when I first went there. Dimitri Karin. I don't know if you remember him, but used to play for
Yeah.
Chelsea, Russia.
Funny enough, just before we start this, Paul popped on our group chat. Have you seen who the goalkeeping coach is? So yeah, we do
Yeah,
remember
he's
him. Yeah,
he's a big scary Russian.
yeah,
We call him, but no. Listen, I think he's the best goalkeeper coach in the league. He's actually unbelievable. And what people don't realise, he's an Olympic gold medalist.
Is
Because
he?
Russia won the Olympics, and his stories are fantastic. He's a part of the furniture at Hemel, because he's been there now 7, 8 years. But do you know what? He's really welcomed us in. He's a very good person as well. Very camera shy. He's not one of those that wants to get in front of the camera or anything like that. And he's just all for his goalkeepers. We've had a few disagreements because I might say he should have come for that cross, and Dimmy's like, no, he shouldn't. But again, it's good, friendly discussions that you need to have because I value his opinion. When I'll get a goalkeeper or someone say, I want to come to the club. I send them straight to Dimmy.
Yeah.
I'm not a goalkeeper. He's
Yeah.
built his trade being a goalkeeper. He's an international. He was a Premier League player. He's played in the FA Cup. I can't say, yeah, no, he's good enough and not go through Dimmy. So again, that's really important, that relationship where the goalkeeping department, like the physio department, that's their department. It's really important that they're happy with the keepers that we bring in.
Yeah, they're the subject matter experts, so to speak, aren't they? If that's their level,
yeah, 100%.
Why not use it?
Yeah, absolutely. If Dimmy says to me, I don't feel he can come for crosses, or I'm just not sure on him, then I'll go with what Dimmy says on that.
Yeah.
It's important. It's not my domain.
Yeah. And you touched on this before, but how important is the culture in the dressing room compared to, say, ability? For example, is the attitude just as important as the ability, Lee?
Massive, massive. I think that it's probably one of the biggest thing in football. If you was to come and watch my team, you wouldn't say technically we're the best team in the league. I think we're a long way off it technically, if I'm honest. But the team spirit, the desire, the togetherness get you through. And I made a rule at the start of the season. So we're fortunate at the football club. We've got a classroom there that's used in the day. And then we've got obviously the changing room. So I do all my work now in the classroom. We'll do our team talk in there before the game. Obviously, we use the changing room at half time, but the changing room now is their place. I go in there very rarely. When I am in there, I'm in there for 5 minutes, a little bit of banter with the boys, and get out of there. That's their place, and I think that's really important that they have their place where they can feel comfortable to do what they want and say what they want within their means. That's really important to me, and I felt like the group have grown this year by doing it that way. And again, I think it's really important.
Yeah, so again, as you said, to be able to voice their own opinions in a private setting as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And they talk about their night out. I don't want to know about it, because they're talking about it before we're out to kick off. Then I'm going to have a problem with it. But if it works for them, then great. But I think it's really important to have that space from each other as well.
Yeah, Ian, who's normally on the pod, he does a little bit around music. He's promoted music for about 8 years, but he also manages a Sunday league football team. And he tells us a story that one of the lads who's asked to come back, who went away, he said on the group chat, he sent a picture at 5 a.m, drunk, eating a pizza, asking what time kick-off was on Sunday. So completely different level to you.
Nah, listen, they've got their own group chat. I don't mix myself with the players in that way. I think it's really important that they have their space because, if they have a night out, I would not go with them. That's just my thing. Some managers go, some don't. But I think that, if I go in the change rooms at the end of the game and give a bollocking to a group of players because the performance isn't good enough, and then I'm going out, I'm going out drinking with them after. I just don't think that sets the right tone.
Yeah.
There has to be that space. That's their domain. My office is up the road, and with my management team staying there, and that's how we work. And listen, it works for us. It might not work for others.
Yeah, I like it. And Lee, how many hours a week or a day do you do, and how many hours do players do at that level, Lee?
Well,
in terms of training.
My wife's sitting in the corner over there, and she'll tell you it's 24/7, 7 days a week. Even when I'm sleeping, I'm kicking her because I'm thinking I'm kicking a ball. And I mean, even Monday night, I've had the weirdest dream about the Ebbsfleet game. Honestly, it's non-stop. It really is. There ain't a manager at the level now that. So I'm fortunate. It's not full time. Me and the chairman had an agreement this year that to go full time and sit at the football club every day when you haven't got your players there with you because they're part time. I don't see the sense and the logic. All I'm going to do is sit and dwell on results.
Yeah.
And I think it's really healthy to get away from that. So during the day, I work with kids that have been removed from school. And I do one-to-one mentoring with them, and that's a fantastic getaway from football. So I do that during the day. Obviously, I have my work calls, but constantly thinking football. We train Tuesday and Thursday night, so the players will arrive tomorrow at 6:30. We'll train at 7, home by 8:30, 9 o'clock. And the same on a Tuesday. Obviously, tomorrow's training session will be a little bit different, and then Saturdays we're in. But for me, it'll be a wake up Sunday. I'll probably speak to 4 or 5 different managers from the league, and then get on with what we do on a Sunday with the family, and then you go again kind of Monday. It really is non-stop. I find it very difficult when you get beat because you're dwelling on the defeat and why it went wrong. When you win, you sort of like you park it, you're happy, but there's another game coming. But it is 24/7 for the players. It's slightly different. I said it in my interview last night. We played Ebbsfleet yesterday. I mean, what a football club that is! Like it's way below probably where it should be, and they look like they've got a manager now where they're going to kick on, and the infrastructure and everything around it. He told me, the manager yesterday, they planned for us all day on Monday. They're full time. We planned for Ebbsfleet last night at 6:45, and we still had players arriving late because of the M25 with lateness. We don't get a coach to Ebbsfleet because it's probably 50, 60 miles. We haven't got them luxuries that these other clubs have got. So actually, to do what we're doing as a group has been fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's very tough. The league is getting stronger and stronger. The finances are getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I do think within the next 5 years, I think the league will be full time. I really believe that. Because the league's just growing stronger and stronger.
Yeah, you've seen the finances dripping down the leagues from the Premiership to the Championship right the way down. And you only have to look at, I don't know, Wrexham, for example, who's went through the divisions with all that back and what they've had. But a lot of the clubs now, even in the first and the second division, there's some massive clubs there before you even get to you guys. So again,
you look at both leagues. You look at Torquay United and Macclesfield alone, like two football league clubs, big football league clubs, and they're both playing themselves in the National League North and South. So Dagenham and Redbridge, the leagues are. They're big. They're proper leagues now. The game's evolving massively and very quickly. So it's great to be in. It really is great to be in.
Yeah, and when you bring players to the club, Lee, when you sign players, do you have much involvement in that? I think you mentioned as a sporting director, does he have sole responsibility and you just coach them, or does he come to you and say, what do you think about this player?
No, not really. So as I say, as a management team, I do all the recruitment, I would say, but where obviously my dad and Gary are very good is their experience, because I'm a manager that's hungry, and I would be like one in, one out until I get it right. And at the same time, they're very much like, we need to take our time, make sure he's the right person coming through the door. We've just bought a boy from Hereford that we feel has been a fantastic signing for us, and the chairman's backed us with that. But at the same time, it's more of a collective effort. The chairman's involved in it, the secretary's involved in it, and my dad and Gary are also involved in it. But it's normally me that makes the phone calls. It's me. At the end of the day, the players are playing for me. So, they might not take to Dad or Gary, or they might not take to me, and then it doesn't work out. So I think it's important that I have a heavy hand in the recruitment.
Yeah.
Whether we look at it slightly different in the summer's another thing, but I think we've done okay. We've got one or two wrong. We've got a lot right. It's football. You make them decisions.
Yeah. I seen a LinkedIn post, Lee, yesterday, what you posted, which I thought was brilliant.
I appreciate
when I read
that.
it. I loved it. And two things what I took from it when I read it is, one, you said you love to see players progress. I think you said probably a little bit reluctantly as well, but you like to see them progress and get on and become full-time if possible. Is that a selling point for you in the club as well, Lee, that you want players in where you can say to them, listen, we want you to progress not just with us, but wherever that might be?
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned from my dad in that aspect. Look, when we was at St Albans, I don't know if you know the boy. We had the boy Junior Marias, who actually went on to Peterborough, and I think we were second or third in the south at the time, and Peterborough come in for him. And I said to Dad, we can't let him go. Like, he's our best player. He would never stand in anyone's way of moving forward, and that was big. And I always remember that. And from that day, that has been my philosophy.
Yeah.
Never ever will I stand in anyone's way of becoming a professional footballer or changing their life. If someone wants to move sideways for an extra £100, it gives me the because I think, back us and trust us, will get you where you want to go. But to see players move forward, and I've probably had a hand now in 8, 10 players that have made their professional debut, and that gives me immense pride, because whether it works out on the pitch with results or doesn't, then players will always look back and say, maybe I had a little helping hand in that. And, to see Miller's now go and change his life, that's massive. That really is massive for me.
The other thing what I loved on that postly, you use the word which we don't see that often in football no more. You called him a maverick on your terminology. So what makes a maverick nowadays?
He's a maverick, mate. Well, he does things with the ball that I've never seen. But I've seen players do things with the football in training. He does it in a game, and he'll pull something out of nowhere sometimes. And his performances, they've been indifferent this season. But I'm one of those managers that when I see someone do something like he can do, then there's a top player in there. And then I think then you go to the next stage of going full time, training 5 days a week. You're going to become even better. So I knew early on that he's a maverick. He drove me mad. I was strong with him because, he took the piss at times. He took liberties in terms of, his finishing at times. And in training, we'd be mucking about. And I would say to him, to get to the next level, you have to be ruthless. You have to have that ruthless mentality. And he listened. And then he scored 2 overhead kicks in 2 weeks. And the last one was unbelievable. And I've worked with one other player like that. The other players that have gone on to succeed are very good players. But there was another player called Jaden Clark. He's at Forest Green now. The kid's ability is frightening, and Miller's is exactly the same. And I call them the Maverick because I know they can do so much more. But the things that they can do are incredible and they're exciting. And I'm sure he's going to excite a lot of people. And I just want him to go on and do really well in his career because he's a lovely boy. And it just goes to show as well, released at Luton at 18, 19, released by Farnborough last year to come out and loan to us in the National League South. Everyone would say he's written off and he's gone, but he's come back, he's worked hard, he's done everything he was asked to do. He's never been a day's problem for me. And lo and behold, he's gone and got his move and he's gone and got a League One football club. We played Wigan this year. He's the best player on the pitch, or one of the best players on the pitch in the second half. And to do it at that level, that tells you where he could get to. So, he's a really good player, and I'm so pleased for the boy.
Yeah, and do you think that's building on the positives and the confidence, like what you mentioned earlier on, trying to focus on the positives of players as opposed to the negatives a little bit?
Yeah, because I just think like if I go to football unhappy and I'm not happy with myself and I've got because the manager keeps shouting at me, my performances are not going to be as good as what they can be. Yeah. I'm one of them. I just think smile. If you're playing with a smile on your face, you play your best football. And listen, we all look at tactics and how the other team is shaping up and how this, and it comes down to players. It comes down to recruitment. You're only as good as your recruitment. You're only as good as your players. And if you get that right, you'll be okay. I'm massive on that. And we can look at tactics and we can look at all this stuff. If your players are smiling and they're happy, and I say to any player that's signed for me that have got aspirations of moving to the next level, I say, look, I'll make you smile. I'll keep you happy. And if you're smiling and doing well and you get the move, we're doing well as a football club as well. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you had a player who was in the Southern Premier South or one of the lower leagues, a young player, and he wanted to try and get higher up, what 3 tips would you give him, Lee? 3 things to focus on. What would be any advice for him off the top of your head?
Play with a smile, I think, is really, really important. Work extremely hard, because I don't know a talented player that's never worked hard that has succeeded. And I know a lot of talented players, but they haven't got the drive or desire. And the last thing would be give it everything you've got and leave no stone unturned, because there's a lot of regrets in football and it's a very, very short career, and that's what people have to remember. And if you go away, and how many people we know that have said, oh, I could have made it, or I could have done this, or I could have done that, well, you've got to give yourself every opportunity. And I believe if you give yourself every opportunity and you do all them things, you have every chance. You've got to have the ability. Like, don't get me wrong, you have to have ability. But I tell you now, there's players in the Football League that haven't got half the ability some of these non-league players have, but they've worked themselves so hard to get where they want to get to. Yeah. It doesn't just take you there. You have to work hard.
Yeah, that's been brilliant, that, Lee. That's been really great. I'm sure the lads will have a few questions now. I'll hand off, but I think 6th place at the moment, aren't you? And I think what's exciting about that league, when I've been watching it in recent weeks and looking at the results and things, I think there's something like 8 points that separate the top 7, isn't it? So it's a crazy, immense league, isn't it?
It is, and anyone beats anyone. I think that's my frustration. We look back at, we went to Maidstone, hardest place to go in the league. we win 1-0. We go to Ebbsfleet last night, we draw 2-2. We play Dover Saturday, get beat 2-1. And 2 weeks earlier, we play Slough at home and lose 3-0. The league is mad, and everyone can beat everyone. It really is like that. But look, we took over last year. We were in a real bad place as a football club. We've managed to turn it around. I would say we're a year further ahead than I felt we would be. Are we good enough to make the playoffs? I'm not sure. I said to the boys last night, they've got to go out there and give it their all now and enjoy every single game that we've got left. And if it's good enough, then great. And if it isn't, we work hard and rebuild next year and go again. But go back to it, leave no stone unturned. I think that's the biggest thing, and we'll give it our best shot. We feel that we need a certain amount of wins to get in there. And if we get it, the one thing that we are with Hemel, I would say that because of the way we are, we're not the most fluent footballing team, but we're the hardest working team in the league. And none of the top teams like playing us. And I think that's always a good sign. So if we can get in there, we'll be a problem. But whether we're good enough, I'm not so sure yet.
Yeah, well, good on you, Lee. You've been brilliant tonight. And I've thoroughly enjoyed that, mate. But I know the lads will have a few questions and they'll probably pick some better ones than me from watching that intro. So
thank you.
I know you've been brilliant. Thanks for joining, mate. Really appreciate it. But Paul, have you got any questions for Lee?
Yeah, I mean, I've got tons, but I'll try and keep it short and keep it brief. But obviously, Lee, you say about the standard of the league and the quality. And my younger brother, he plays for Carlisle, which is just the league above you, and you really see the absolute quality in that league. And I think for them, every game's almost like a cup final because Carlisle had a bit of a big draw. But obviously, even just that one step down, the standard of football is unbelievable. And I think that's what a lot of people don't really understand when they see some of the quality and some of the players. It's such a great league to go and watch.
Yeah, it is. And we played Ebbsfleet last night, and I have to say the standard of the game was superb. The quality on the pitch was brilliant. And it's a great advert for non-league football. I really think it's the place to be at the moment in terms of the quality of football, the honesty in the football as well is so good. I'll be honest, and if my wife's got a series on the telly, as long as it ain't anything I don't want to watch, but if it's something we want to watch together, or Arsenal playing Liverpool, I'll be honest with you, I'll watch the series but if you give me Torquay versus Dover last night, I'd have certainly watched that, because it's honest and it's not a chess match. It's free flowing. It's everything you want in football. And I just feel the Premier League now is like a chess match, and I find it quite boring, if I'm honest. I like the hustle and bustle and the reality and the realness of non-league football, League One, League Two. I love it, and that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, to be honest, we couldn't agree more. And it's something that we've touched upon on this podcast, the football at the highest level. You look at the number of tackles, the number of shots, the number of shots outside the box. It's so much worse than what it used to be. But you are seeing that quality still trickle down as you get through the league. So, it's definitely something that, people are turning off from the Premier League because it's just not as exciting anymore.
Yeah, and listen, what makes me laugh is football comes round in circles. I used to love managers like Tony Pulis and Sam Allardyce because they were real, not necessarily because their style, but what's a good style? I look at it, it's whatever's successful. You've got Arsenal now, I've got a long throw, corners into the box from every angle, crosses in the box. It's football. There's no right or wrong way of playing. 3 years ago, it was the Pep way. Years before that, it was, Mourinho would park the bus and nick one. It's just football, and everyone complicates it. And I think it's a really, really simple game. I really believe that. And when you go into non-league, you find it's just simple, and it's just 22 lads going to war week in, week out, and giving their very best version of themselves. And sometimes you get beat, sometimes you win, and sometimes you draw games of football. But it's honest and it's real, and that's the biggest thing that I love about it. And whether you go long ball, short ball, whatever it is, it's just football, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, some of the things we've been saying on the pod about, you touched there about Arsenal's corner tactics. Go and put 3 on the fucking halfway line, and you'll stop half of this. It's bonkers.
Do you know what? And this is what makes me laugh now, right? And this is true. If you put Sam Allardyce in at Arsenal, and he was doing what Arteta's doing now. Listen, Arteta's a fantastic manager. I'm not digging anyone out here, but this is how fickle football is. Arsenal would get pelters. Allardyce would get pelters. But now, because we've got a foreign manager's come in and he's doing it this way and they're getting success, it's acceptable. There's no right or wrong way. What he's doing is brilliant. I think Arsenal will win the league. I said it from the start. They're organised, they're strong, they're solid, they're fluent. Their set pieces are brilliant. Like you say, is there ways to stop it? I'm sure there is. And eventually it will get found out and everyone go back to passing from the back. But it's just, every manager's got their own way and there's no right or wrong way. And I think a lot of managers get stick for how they play and what they do. And I think it's unnecessary at times because, there's no, as I go back to it, there's no right or wrong way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, unbeknown to you, a few months back, you had all of us as Hemel Hempstead supporters. Because
Really?
we've got a mate who's a diehard Wigan fan and fucking hate Wigan. So we were cheering you on, and unfortunately you couldn't make it through the pens. But you talked about the highs and the adrenaline stuff. That was obviously a bit of a low, but certainly a good show you put on there for that one.
Listen, do you know what? I've never watched the game back. I've never watched the game back. I can't watch it back. It makes me feel physically sick, and I've never been like that either. It was. The first half, we were really passive. Firstly, what a great occasion. You felt like you was a full-time football club. We trained on the Friday morning. We travelled up Friday afternoon. We stayed in the hotel. I watched the chairman drink about 17 glasses of wine with my dad and then kind of go to bed, get up in the next day. You have your breakfast, you go for your walk. We haven't got that luxury, So for us, this was a big occasion. I forgot my toothbrush. I'm running over to the supermarket getting players to bring me stuff back. It was brilliant, And then you get there and you look at the stadium. And I said to my management team, "Listen, if we get out of here losing 6, I'll be over the moon." And first up, and funny enough, the boy up front for them knows one of my players, and he said, "I can't believe it." He said the gaffer's put half the kids out. So I'm saying to my boys, I said, "Listen, fellas, they're treating us poorly here. We got half a chance. Just stick at it. If he's put the kids out," and lo and behold, he's gone full strength. And I thought, "Oh, here we go." And first half, we were in the game, but we just weren't ourselves. We're a team that when the shackles are off, we're very dangerous. So it was probably the biggest bollocking I've given the group all season, believe it or not. And you're playing Wigan, which makes no sense. And I really got into the players at half time and just said, just go for it. I'd rather get beaten 6-0 than get beat like this. We're passive, we're not making tackles. And I have to say, from minute 45 to the end of the extra time, how we haven't won the game, I'll never know. It was so one-sided. The manager for them was different class with us after. And yeah, we should have won the game, but it wasn't to be, and I can't watch the game back, which is really strange, but it just hurts too much. So coming back on that, coach disappointed. I never thought that would happen.
Well, I say you give a real good account to yourselves, and I guess you're saying you're giving the guys a bollock, and you know their ability and you know what they can do, and you just want them to show it on that kind of stage.
100%, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think Ian's just left. Oh, he's coming back. Ian currently, who's on the call, he's at Camel Laird's, and funnily enough, one of his lads is leaving his team to go to Camel Laird's, which I believe is step 4. Yeah. So I was going to cut to Ian, but I don't know whether he's there. He's in the car. God love him. Up at Camel Laird's.
I remember Camel Laird. They were in the FA Vars when my dad was manager at Stockfold. I'm talking 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they were like a feared team back then in the Vars. They were a big, strong side. So I'm not so sure what they're like now, but I always remember the name.
Yeah, absolutely. I was saying to the boys, they're in the same league as Asheville. And I remember Mike Newell playing with them in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he was still a fantastic player then, you know what I mean? And again, the standard is superb.
Your brother's at Carlisle, did you say?
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Yes. So my son's best friend's there as well. He's at Elliot at Embleton.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually was going to go and watch him against Bournemouth the other week, but
Morgan Feeney is my younger brother, so he's there at the minute. So yeah, and again, it's a tough league. It's a real tough league to get out of.
Really tough league. Some massive clubs in there, and St Carlisle were a big football club themselves. They really are. So I'm hoping because of Elliot, I'd like them to get out of it. To be fair, but listen, Boreham would have done great this year as well. They've had a great season this year, so. It's really tight up there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. Thanks a lot, Lee. Kurt, do you want to come in? Any questions?
No, I didn't have any questions. I wanted to say I appreciate the human element you genuinely bring, or it sounds like you bring at least. I know growing up playing basketball very seriously that you come across coaches and things that kind of like take like the expression out of you a little bit.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the human element you seem to bring and how you talk about players individually and what their goals are and stuff like that. I just wanted to point that out. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. No, I appreciate that.
I think that's a wrap that then for us, Paul. But Lee, honestly, mate, we really appreciate it. We will keep an eye on the club. Love to see you do well and see how far you can either take them or how far you go, Lee. So
no, I appreciate that.
We really wish you all the best, mate. You've been a superb guest and yeah, made up.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, all the very best, mate.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers, mate. Take care,
all
mate.
the best. Cheers. Bye-bye. Bye.
Brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. Really insightful there. And as Kurt said, you get the human element of it coming through, really coming through. So yeah, really positive interview that.
I love the passion for the lower leagues when he was talking about it as well. Brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So Kurt, what a week you had last week. Superb choices on the betting scene. Really fantastic week. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'm seeing it all right now. Right now, it's just like, it's not easy, but you get a sense of how everything feels, and sometimes it just clicks for a few weeks at a time, and I feel like I'm right in that area right now.
No, some good shouts, especially like the Man U one, win by just a single goal and so on. So yeah, top choices. Well done. So what have we got this week?
I've got 3. First one is Leeds, draw no bet. They're at home to Forest, and we've talked about Leeds a couple of times where they kind of tend to start really well and kind of fade a little bit, particularly on the road. But at home against some of these bottom half division teams, they tend to do enough and pull out wins. 1-0 at home to Fulham, 4-1 at home to Palace. They beat Chelsea 3-1 here, and then everything else is a draw pretty much. So they're getting results pretty comfortably. And at home against the Forest side that likes to sit back and counter, though Leeds have tough midfielders and tend to prevent that kind of stuff, I think Leeds could get a win here, but we'll do draw no bet just in case they want to draw for the 12th time in a row there. And then Arsenal -1.5. They're playing Sunderland at home. Back to going against Sunderland. We went with Sunderland last week because Burnley are horrible, and that worked out all right. But Sunderland, I'm not going to let off the hook just yet. If Arsenal score 3 here, I don't see a world where Sunderland cover this number. Really tough for me to see them going in there and grabbing 2. And I don't particularly think they score here, so I think 2 is enough. But Arsenal are capable of scoring 3 or 4 here, and if they get to 3 in particular, I'm not sure how Sunderland keep it very close. And then Bournemouth and Villa, both teams to score yes. Last couple of weeks, I've been kind of waiting to see what they look like without Semenyo, and while the defense is still the defense and they still play the high line and get caught, which Villa will be happy to play into and score themselves, they have a 3-3 with Newcastle, 1-1 with Brighton, the Liverpool game 3-2, and then they go to Wolves and win 2-0. They're scoring goals still comfortably. It's like they're like Brighton, like no matter what happens, no matter who changes, the system's fine, scoring goals. So I like both teams to score yes on that one.
Excellent stuff. So the Leeds game is the Friday, 8 p.m. So starting early on that one. Arsenal's at 3 p.m. on the Saturday, and Bournemouth and Villa at 3 p.m. on the Saturday as well. Interesting one about the Arsenal one, and funnily enough, I only seen a stat just before. Have a guess how many games have been won by 4 clear goals in the Prem this season?
Oh, I saw that too. It was very, very low. It was like, it may have been 1 or 2.
It was 1. It's
the Leeds one.
Yeah, and that's the thing, especially I think a couple of seasons ago, there was 17 games with that win margin. The thumpings have really, really stopped. No one really goes out anymore and puts a load past an opposition by that many clear goals. So yeah, really interesting to go -1.5. So yeah, we'll see what that brings. Cole, any advances?
No, just brilliant. Again, Kurt, and brilliant last week. I think those picks last week were, and the insight was absolutely spot on. So well done, mate. It's not easy picking them. That's for certain. I think we said in one of the other pods. I think if you take away the top two or three teams, I think all of the Premier teams have won less than 50% of their games. So it shows how easy it is to get one wrong and slip up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think a whole lot of these teams are really close. It's the first time in a couple of years that the teams that have been promoted from the championship are good. Like Leeds are solid and Sunderland are solid and Burnley aren't and Wolves aren't. But if you took Arsenal out of the equation and you took the bottom two out of the equation, I mean, what is the real genuine difference between like a West Ham and like, I mean, Villa, if you want, who are like fourth? Like the differences there aren't really that high. Anybody can go anywhere and win. Teams aren't like teams are going on the road and not necessarily playing scared. Like football's a little bit tighter as a whole now, but it doesn't mean that teams like Brentford are going on the road and just closing up and sealing their game off. They're going over and playing their game and trying to win games on the road and stuff like that. So everyone's just tighter, more well-run clubs, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Everyone's beating everyone, or everyone's drawing with everyone, so it is really tough. Do you want to talk Liverpool this week, or should we save it for next week and clock off with the interview and the bet? And what do you want to do, boys?
We should talk
I'm
about
happy.
Liverpool because they played well, and and I don't know how many times that's happened. So you should talk through the glowing bits as long as they come.
Yeah, kick us off then, Kate. What did you make of the performance against Newcastle?
Um, I thought they played really well in the back hour. I thought the first half hour was slow, and I think they came into the game and played Newcastle like they were full strength. And when Newcastle are missing Bruno and Joelinton, it's like it's a little bit easier to run through the middle. Not necessarily, it's not like a walk in the park or anything, but it's a little bit easier to play through them. And I thought they played a little bit slow to start with. I didn't think they were getting run over or anything like that, but like I thought they were a little bit slow, and that tough goal to concede it was just a tough chance that Gordon finished. And we had talked about Gordon last week. That's his first open play goal since like February of last year or something like that. But after that, I thought they were really good. I think Verts and Ekatike are great. They're just playing fantastic. And we talked about, I think, early on, like in October, that it might be a little bit difficult for the foreign players to come in and assimilate with the squad because of what's happened with Jota and everything, and because it's just difficult to kind of come in as a new set and assimilate into a situation like that. But they assimilated with each other, and now that they're assimilating with the team, it's almost like that's the pair that's carrying it forward at the moment. Um, and they're playing really well. Ekatike's second finish was so good. And once you get like them into space, everything looks great. But yeah, once they open the game up a little bit, they look really good going forward. And yeah, they played real well.
Yeah, it felt like, didn't it? We've commented on Wert and Ekatike being probably two of our best players this season, and they have played well. But it felt like the Newcastle game. It was almost like, wait a minute, these are two real players. And I thought Slot really needed that result, didn't he? That hopefully will be a standout result for them and kick us on a little bit. But we have got Man City next, so we'll have to see how that goes. What do you think about the Man City match? Are you confident?
This is the first time in a bit that I don't know what to think of a Liverpool game. Normally I have an opinion, but I don't know what to think here. I think I think City are really close to like if they fall 10 points back of Arsenal, like if they go to Liverpool and lose, like I think there's a world where City just fall off completely because I think at this point I think Pep's leaving at the end here. So I think there are a few like weird because it doesn't feel like, hey, Pep's leaving, we should celebrate what he's done and he's won us all these trophies and done all these things. It feels like, man, Pep's leaving and it's almost like a toxic, not quite toxic, but like a down mood. Like he's leaving and the charges are coming and like everything negative is falling onto the team at the same time. And so I don't know what to think of City, which makes me kind of not know what to think of the game just as a whole.
Did you see Pep's interview the other day about
I
the
did.
Did you see what did you make of that?
I don't know. That's just what I don't. It's tough to like look at it and feel that way because he was doing interviews like that after he had that wrong spell after him and his wife split up and everything was just bugging him. Remember? It just feels like everything. It just feels like that around the club, and his interviews are kind of like that. And you're like, what are you talking about?
I do wonder as well. He went on about being seventh on the net spend table over the last 5 years, didn't he? And when I heard that interview, I was thinking, but I wondered how much they spent the previous 5 years. If you spent all this money over the previous 5 years, you've then got assets what you can sell, so it then makes the next 5 years look a little bit different, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he knows that some of their stuff is like off book. Like it was like with Holland, and it was like 50 million, and it's like okay, there's like a 50 million signing bonus he gets, and he gets his wages and stuff that doesn't go necessarily into the net spend, but like he's got a couple of those transfers as well that have been not hidden, but they're not like directly on the net spend thing either. But he's had his fair share of that stuff. There was that year where they didn't have any fullbacks and they spent 200 million on fullbacks in one summer. You know, like he doesn't get to complain. Like Marmoush hasn't hit and they bought Semenyo like immediately. Like shouldn't get to complain about that stuff.
They just keep buying, don't they, in that respect. Yeah. And Paul, did you see the Slot Richard Hughes interview? Have you had a chance to watch it? What did you make of it, Paul?
I've not watched it yet, and I'm a little bit on the fence whether I do watch it because it's one of those ones. If my initial gut feel and seeing some of the clips, it feels very contrived and very timed for Liverpool not signing anyone immediately in the transfer window. And I think given the furore with Salah that happened before he went off to AFCON, it all seemed very fractured. And people were asking the question, well, what's Hughes doing? What's going on there? What's happening with Hogan? What's happening with Slot? And it seems very much like it's landed to almost paint a bit of a rosy picture. We're all friends here kind of thing. Whether that's the case, I'd wonder. Especially, Liverpool have spoken to Alonso. They have potentially spoken to Gerrard. We've got people on, forums and, Fabrizio Romano saying these things. So it's not all nicey hunky-dory across the piece at Liverpool. The likes of your Hughes, like your Hogans, are looking across the piece. They are looking at other managers potentially because ultimately, and we've said this, if Liverpool don't qualify for the Champions League next season, he will be gone. It's as simple as that. And as much as we say about, the league title buys you time, it absolutely does. And I think that's probably why he's still on the job now. But I don't know, I will watch it at some point. I'm just nervous and it feels very contrived from what I've seen so far. But once I watch the whole thing, I could be changing my mind.
It's worth a watch. I only watched it the once, and two of the things what I took from it was one, I thought it was interesting when Slot said to Richard Hughes, he said about his signings. So we referenced signings, and he said his signings. This is our signings, or we signed. He said his signings, and you could see Richard Hughes. And later on it, Richard Hughes said something along the lines of, just to make it clear, we're all involved in this. Everyone's got a part to play. But Slot had already made it clear that they're his signings, not his. And then there was another partner with Richard Hughes said something along the lines of, new signings and players need time to settle in. And then Slot said they have to perform straight away. And then Slot sort of went back on a little bit. It almost made me think, I think behind the scenes, maybe it's not as rosy as what you think between them two. Because I believe they get on quite well, and apparently they talk every day. But if you're not winning matches, people look at who to blame, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Liverpool made a really clear point about Slot's appointment. He's head coach. He's not the manager. So that very clearly shows that he's not fully in control of transfers because he is now the head coach, the first one in Liverpool's history. So there's clearly decisions being made potentially. Let's look at Chiesa, for example. Slot absolutely either doesn't like him or doesn't rate him, judging by the experience that Keys has had. So I think there are definitely signings within there that are not slot signings, so to speak. And look, that Geertruida, there might have been something in that where Slot wants to bring him, but the optics didn't really work from a Richard Hughes point of view. We don't know at this moment in time. So I think there's definitely some still disconnected, say, between Hughes and Slot. I think overall, and we said this when we signed all those players, overall as a summer transfer window, it was really solid, apart from Guay, which we spoke about last week. But a lot of them were replacements. Now, whether they were what Slot wanted to replace in that sense is remains to be seen. But, you know, I think you can't argue with the attacking element that was signed, as Kurt touched upon. Ekitike and Wert are really now starting to show the quality and how they're linking up and really just carrying Liverpool at this moment in time. So, yeah, I think there's definitely something going on there. It's not as rosy, but yeah, I'm a bit on the cynical side, thinking, yeah, this feels a bit contrived and a bit, oh, look at us, we're all happy clappy, when that's probably not the case.
Yeah, well, let's hope the result kicks us on, because it was a good. I think as Kurt said, the first 30 minutes weren't good at all. The nenext 60 minutes, I thought were really good. And we mixed it up a little bit. We went a bit more direct at times, and it played it short. We need to went a bit long with Kirk's ball through. Couldn't even say that then. So we did mix it up a little bit. So hopefully that kicks us on for the rest of the season.
I just wanted to point out he's playing much better as well. Kirk is.
Yeah.
Yeah, confidence seems to be getting up a little bit. And again, for me, he started playing it forward a little bit more and a bit more into feet. Whereas at first, I think the confidence and maybe the weight of the shirt, he was getting it. He was looking at Van Dijk and he was just passing it to him, wasn't he, all the time? It was almost like he didn't want to express himself. So hopefully he kicks on as well now.
Yeah, an interesting point about Konate. Obviously, he's gone through a real tough time of late. He was playing as though he had a weight lifted off his shoulders, and maybe there is some aspect where, you know, unfortunately things are bigger than football, and you know, he's had that experience and he's kind of gone, do you know what, I've been really worrying about his form and things. It's not something that's, you know, especially when you have a tragedy like that you need to worry about. So maybe that's kind of coming to it. We'll see how we perform on Sunday. Myself and Joel will be there, so we'll pop a couple of videos on. You'll see us. We've actually got seats next to each other for once, would you believe, rather than being in opposite ends of the ground. So yeah, we'll put some posts on, and hopefully Liverpool can carry that form forward.
Just on Konate, he almost played like a player playing for the contract against Newcastle, didn't he?
A little bit, yeah.
I know,
a little bit.
I know we've said for a while he's gone. He's definitely gone. I think we said it from the start of the season, probably the back end of last season. We said he's definitely gone. But I watched him against Newcastle and I thought, that's almost like, you know, like Salah was before he got his contract. It was almost like that's a player who wants a contract here. He's really going for it. Silly things that happens in football, just to finish off as well. Moyes getting that yellow card for celebrating. Ridiculous, isn't it? Even Lee talking about the lower leagues. I'm sure that wouldn't happen. And Konate, one of his tackles where he slid in, clearly won the ball, and the referee would panic and give a free kick straight away. It was almost like, because he went to ground, it's a free kick, and I thought, they need to stop that. It was never ever a foul, was it?
Well, if you're looking at the highlights reel from that Jeremy Jacquet, they're all sliding tackles, so we'll have to nip that in the bud. Otherwise, he'd be sent off every other week in the Prem. It's ridiculous. You're absolutely right, Cole.
Yeah, and centre-halves never go to ground, do they? And he was on the floor in every clip I seen on that YouTube as well. Maybe because it makes, as you said, better viewing.
It does. A stand-up tackle is just not as nice as it.
Yeah, no. Well, listen, my iPad's down to 2%. That's me done for tonight, boys. But yeah, really good session as always.
Yeah, spot on. Nice one, boys. All the best. And yeah, up the
Good
fucking
one.
Reds.
Up the Reds. See you later.
Have a good one, guys.